Good evening, this is Alicia Saratani, and joining me is Lyndon LaRouche. So much has happened just in the last 24 hours that I wanted to get Mr. LaRouche in here in the studio to preempt a potential breakout situation in the entire transatlantic system. What we're facing immediately is the prospect of a QE3. And just to preempt the discussion, so it's clear what the implications of this are, of a quantitative easing 3, now proposed by the U.S. Federal Reserve, I want to ask just simply, what are the implications? What exactly does it mean that they're going for a QE3 right now?
Well, first of all, we have already reached the limits of the bailout process. Not that it hasn't been bad all right along. We reached the point that any effort in this direction is inclined to produce an immediate effect. That is an immediate general chain reaction collapse of the entire planet, starting especially in the transatlantic region. We're at the point. If this were pushed through, you would have exactly that effect. It would be the end of civilization as we've known it. That's the way you have to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Why then, if QE1 didn't work, QE2 was more of a disaster, got us in the situation we're in today, why would the people pushing QE3 go for it? Why would they do it?
Well, first of all, the QE series, every element of it is thievery. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with an economy which is shutting down. Because it's shutting down all productive forms of economy, all you're doing is creating hyperinflation, step by step. So therefore there is no value involved in any of this money. But the wealthy people who control the things, Wall Street and London and so forth, that these people, this class of people who care nothing for the people of the United States or the nation, all they want is more of this money. Now they know they can't get this additional money by producing, not the way they're doing. Therefore they want to take it out of the hide of the people. So you have quantitative easing in each step. Rob the people to enrich the rich and charge the cost of the enriching the rich to the people. Take away health care, take away this, take away everything. Now, what's happened is that process, which is criminal, it's actually all the way along, has now reached the point that they have inflated the system so much that any further inflation of a QE type, that's QE3 in particular now, would ensure a chain reaction collapse of the entire transatlantic region. The United States, South Atlantic as well, Africa, Europe. It's an act of insanity, but they're by people who are not concerned with results. They don't care. We want our money. That's our money. We want our money. We need that money. You've got to print it and give it to us. Mm-hmm. And what happens to the people of the United States, the people of Europe? They don't care. So they're blinded to reality, which means that in the interest of trying to get that money they want, because it's not real money, but they get the federal government through the process to oblige itself to rob the people by printing money, in effect, and then making the people pay for it. They steal and make the people go out and pay for it in health care and all other kinds of things. So this thing has now reached the point that it is like Germany in 1923, that one more blow in this step and it'll blow the whole system wide open. And everybody in leading positions in Europe knows it. Mm-hmm. But it's happening anyway because they don't care about the effects. They are a short-term view. They want money. And the only way they're going to get it is steal it by getting governments to give it, print it, and give it to them. So, and the people are robbed to pay for that theft.
Right. But it is an absolutely desperate situation. And that's the people who are the perpetrators of the QE3, the QE series. They're going to use the desperation as a leverage to force lawmakers and people generally to fall for this thing. And there's a number of things they're doing, right? That they're saying, if you don't go for austerity, if you don't go for these bailouts, then we're going to downgrade your state bonds. They're just doing a number of bully-type mechanisms to beat people up into saying, okay, we'll go for a bailout. Where in the minds of the lawmakers, where are they going to make the distinguishing point between the fact that you don't cut a deal with these kinds of interests who don't care about the population of the planet generally? where do they find the leverage to fight back and say, no, you're not going. These threats aren't going to work on us. What we're going to do is we're going to put you through a bankruptcy reorganization. What tradition or what legacy, what leg do these people have to stand on?
They don't have one. They are purely selfish interest. We need that money. We've got to get it. We want that president to give us other people's value, steal from them. They don't think about the nation. They don't think about the people. They just do it. And that's where the vulnerability here. You have a generation which have been, in the United States in particular, which has been defeated again and again and again. Since the assassination of Kennedy, there's an increasing trend toward disempowering the people. They have the name of a republic. They have the name of the authority of the Constitution. They have the name of other so-called commitments. But they don't care. Wall Street does not care. Wall Street is bankrupt, hopelessly bankrupt, in fact. It doesn't care. Wall Street wants government and similar money to be uttered at the expense of the people. They don't give a damn what happens to the people. And that's been clearly demonstrated. I don't think anybody who's thinking could deny that that's what they're doing.
Right, but what about the lawmakers? What about the people who have the power of government to stand up to them?
They're cowards. I know people in the United States institutions. Most of them that I know are older, in their 70s or like me in the 80s. We care. But the baby boomer generation that came out of cocaine and whatever else they came out of, they don't care because they are weak. They're morally weak. They're weak in other ways. They have no commitment in principle. They think about pleasure and gain. Pleasure and gain. And they say they will weep, they will cry, they'll say it's terrible, but they won't do anything about it. People who are in government who have the power to do something about it won't, because they're thinking about their career. They're thinking about their advantage. They're thinking about money. They don't want to go be sent to jail, framed up and go to jail. And therefore, since they don't stick together, they are divided. And the American people as a people have only power when they stick together. The American people are not sticking together. One group of people, of the American victims, are preying upon the other. So they lack a leadership of the type which I enjoyed in my earlier life. Under Franklin Roosevelt, we had power. Why? Because the government recognized the usefulness of our having that power. We have a constitution that once says the people have to have the flower. Well, they undermine the constitution, get what they want. And ever since the assassination of Kennedy, President Kennedy, and his brother Robert, remember that Robert was going to become a candidate. He was going to win the Democratic nomination, and they killed him. For the same reason they killed Jack. And since Jack Kennedy was killed, the nation and the condition of the people of the United States has gone down. And when Bobby was killed, the last credible source of resistance to this thievery was gone. And I know because I've done things which are very important for our government, in honest things. I know what it works. I know the experience. I remember the World War II. I was in it. Well, not much importance at that point, but I was in it. We had a different morality than the baby boomer generation. That doesn't mean the baby boomer generation are evil. It simply means they don't have the kind of guts necessary to resist this thing.
So you're saying that this bailout policy right now that is gripping the transatlantic region is part of the same dynamic as the dynamic that actually went into forcing the baby boomer generation to becoming cowards.
Exactly.
Saying this is part of the same dynamic.
Well, the Vietnam War was used to turn the American people into a bunch of cowards. And it was the death of Bobby Kennedy which cut off the possibility of a return to what Jack Kennedy had represented. Now, Jack may not have been perfect. Bobby may not have been perfect, but he was human. And he was creative. And he was a fighter. He had his own style like the Kennedy family did. He had that style. But the motivation, as you get from the conversations they had that we know about, And the policy that Jack had put in, and what the intentions were stated by Brother Robert, these people were still with the American people. They were oriented toward the Franklin Roosevelt legacy. And it went bad. So people found a refuge in pot, going to pot as well. Mm-hmm. And in all kinds of crazy sex. They were bribed by sex. Look, the pill was really made cheap and available then in that period. And therefore people went to that. They didn't have love, but they had sex. And the generation, and pot, they went to pot. And they never came back. Some people did. Some people drew lines and said, well, we're not going to do this. This is immoral. We're not going to do it. We're going to maintain a family. We're going to maintain a community. But the people were divided. They were divided by these categories. And we see it today. We see a generation now, the younger generation, those between 25 and 35. There is a section of that which is the only hope of future leadership of the United States, which will save us. If that generation does not step forward, is not able to step forward, we lose everything. If that generation between the 25 and 35 age group leads the fight, saying, we have a future before us, we're not going to let it be taken away from us. We've seen what happened to the earlier generation. We're not going to be like that. Mm-hmm. We're going to have something better for us, and we're going to defend the nation. We're going to establish real values. And that's, the problem for people like me, who's in the game and has been in the game for a long time, is to make sure that that generation, because they're adults, they're, in a sense, mature young adults. They're not children. And if that generation can mobilize, we have a hope of having an honest government, no dictatorship, no nightmares, but an honest government of a generation that will try. With our Constitution and a generation that will try, we can build back easily.
Well, then I want to just get you on record then, because our generation would have to know what we're up against to wield the power of the Constitution that we have. What is... QE3 is not just, Ben Bernanke's construct. It's not just something he thought about. It's part of a long-standing policy. And if you would, just for the record, allow people to understand the continuity of a policy of monetarism as it is the arch nemesis of something like a republic.
The key thing is production, not just production as such. Human beings are not just productive animals. Human beings are intrinsically creative, or can be creative. They have the only species we know of, and I've called it an immortal species. The human being is an immortal species, and no other form of life ever known to us. It may have been someplace else in some other galaxy, or even in this galaxy, but there's no form of life to match what is humanity. The creative powers of mind, which are expressed not in mathematics, they're expressed in classical artistic composition, or various forms of it. They're expressed in the creative imagination. It is the creative imagination as typified by Bach and things like that, which informs people of how to use numbers, how to use things, because the purpose is human. What is a good human life? If it's his model. But the mortality is not bad in itself, because if we create good things, good policies, when we die, we leave those policies we have bequeathed to our successors. Therefore, the human race, in the proper terms, is the only immortal species of which we have knowledge. There may be that in other parts of the universe. We don't know. But in the history of billions of years on this planet, we've always made progress. That is, a species has made progress. A species has died out. It's been immediately replaced by a species of a higher order. Human life in particular, but life, all life, is creative. The difference with mankind is that mankind is consciously immortal, or can be, because we may die as individuals, but we live forever in what we have assisted to perpetuate for our successors. And therefore, we are not going to die as other species die out. We are going to live if we are ourselves. And it's that idea of immortality, that you may be dead, but what you have contributed by human creativity, willful creativity, will live as your representative long after you're dead. That defines what man must be and what man must do. Man must become what it is, its true heritage, that of an immortal species, the only immortal form of life known to us.
Right. Which is something that Ben Bernanke and some key Congress people are going to have to find out quick or get out of the way.
They will never find out. Right. But the point is, there are others who will. Mm-hmm. And we hope that we protect our people, our children, and others, so that they may sense themselves, or come to sense themselves, as being participants, maybe not with immortal life themselves, but they and their families will continue to exist in the future as the conveyors of the discoveries which one generation has given to the other as its heritage. And we have to get back to that, which is the actual essence of our Constitution. You can say you support the Constitution. If you don't support this, you don't support the Constitution. And we have to affirm, especially this generation between 25 and 35, we have to affirm to them above all, you can be an expression of an immortal species. You will in time die, but what you represent while you live can live forever.
That's worth defeating the people who want to have a different destiny for mankind.
Exactly.
I think so.
You have to love mankind as a species, despite some unlovable people who come up in the process.
Yes, we know a few. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that makes it quite clear. Thanks.